returning for the middle part of next week. It's going to be many settled conditions for all of us, with temperatures remaining in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GBNews.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night and this is the Saturday 5, the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. I'm Alex Armstrong along with Will Kingston, Dr. Renee, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show...
If you cannot speak English, you should not be in the country.
Where streeting is telling porkies about GP numbers.
Burning the Quran is wrong, but it's not illegal.
Reform UK has broken the system.
And Keir Starmer is winning for Britain.
OK, it's 6 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Welcome to this Saturday 5. We always start with some quirky news of the week, so get this. A new male contraceptive implant has been hailed as a scientific breakthrough. The downside, it involves a jab right to the scrotum. Also, when polled, a third of Labour voters said they regretted voting for the current government. Pollsters didn't ask whether Labour voters would take the male contraceptive. After all, what's one more shot to the nuts? Also, British Republicans unleashed their mightiest anti-monarchy protests today, whispering about a shadowy VIP canvassing for their cause. Purely coincidentally, Prince Harry was spotted roaming London today, knocking on doors of random people. Spurious rumours suggest he was slipping "abolish the monarchy" flyers under doors while muttering, "Take that, Dad." And finally, Greggs will raise prices again next week in a move branded a theft tax. That's days after the Sun newspaper witnessed dozens more bake-and-take raiders targeting its stores. In the shake-up, they're rumoured to be announcing a new honorary chairman. None other than Sir Keir Starmer. In his opening remarks, he's allegedly planning to say, "We must go further and faster to free the sausages." As usual, I'm joined by my fantastic panel. Will Kingston, our favourite Aussie migrant, so skint he's eyeing a cheap trip to Calais only so you can come back via small boat. Dr. Renee, Britain's toughest GP, prescribing stiff upper lips and broken legs and veering hypochondriacs away from A&E with a post-it note stuck to their forehead saying, "Just Google it." Kai Wilshaw, our in-house woke warrior. His fan base has soared to record highs on this show over the last 2 weeks. But interestingly, that's only after he disappeared for a week or so. I wonder if there's a connection between the lack of his talking and his popularity. And BBC Apprentice superstar Trey Lowe is back. He's been away as he's just become a new dad. Congratulations, Trey. Very happy for you. Yes, he thought he'd get a break from a crying baby, only to be sat next to Kai all evening. But before we start tearing each other apart, it's your Saturday night news with the brilliant Sophie Reaper.
Thank you, Alex. The time is just after 6 o'clock. Let's take a look at your top stories for this hour. Sir Keir Starmer says Europe and the US are calling Putin out to agree a 30-day unconditional ceasefire in Ukraine. The PM, President Zelensky and other European leaders from the so-called Coalition of the Willing held a call with Donald Trump, backing a ceasefire from Monday. They're warning Putin that if he turns his back on peace, they'll respond by boosting Ukraine's economy and defence. And despite the Kremlin insisting no ceasefire can happen until the West stops arming Ukraine, Sir Keir Starmer said earlier that this ceasefire agreement is the best position they've been in so far.
The position we've now got to today is absolute unity across a whole range of countries around the world, including the United States, that there must be that 30-day unconditional ceasefire. That is the greatest unity on this point we have ever had, pulling different countries together. Clear, absolutely, there must be an unconditional ceasefire for 30 days. Clear that that means it must be without conditions.
Elsewhere, a major breakthrough in South Asia this afternoon as India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. President Donald Trump declared the deal after a long night of talks led by the US, calling it a triumph of common sense and great intelligence. Formal talks on a broader peace deal are now set to begin at a neutral site. However, reports from the Reuters news agency have suggested that blasts continue and projectiles are still being seen in the sky. We'll bring you more on this story as it develops. Work to recover the sunken super yacht owned by Mike Lynch has been paused following the death of a diver. The vessel, owned by Mike Lynch, sank off the coast of Sicily back in August of last year, taking the lives of 7 people, including its billionaire owner and his daughter, Hannah. It's understood that the man who died was a diver for Dutch firm SMIT Salvage and that he lost his life whilst working underwater on Friday. An investigation will now take place to understand the circumstances around his death. And finally, as the news comes that the Duke of Edinburgh will represent the King at the Pope's inauguration next weekend, people in Naples are already cashing in on the new papacy. Handmade figurines of Pope Leo are already being painted and sold to tourists there. Spotted at a market in Livorno, the figures are being sold at an artistic craft shop, with the owner stating, "I hope he will be a good Pope of peace, bringing some stability to the whole country." Those are your latest headlines for now. More from me in the next hour, but now it's back to your fabulous Saturday 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Yes, it's Saturday night and you're with the Saturday 5. Over the next 3 hours, the biggest debates, hottest topics and entertaining interviews will be on this show. Don't forget to visit gbnews.com/poll because we're giving you control of the show from 7 p.m. You'll get to vote on the Saturday scrap. So here are the topics. 1, should we bring back capital punishment? 2, has reform gone woke on flags? 3, should we ditch the monarchy? Right. Please go and vote. And also send your comments into gbnews.com/yourso. I've got a few great ones already, actually. But I'm going to crack on with tonight's first debate. And as always, I'd like to abuse the position of the chair. My predecessor liked to do that too, so I'm honouring that. I'm going to kick us off. Right. Burning the Quran is wrong, but it's not illegal. Multiple stories throughout the last 9 months have led to increased speculation that Labour will introduce blasphemy laws and Islamophobia laws within this parliamentary term. Furthermore, there is great concern some of these laws may be introduced by the back door from an overarching and activist judiciary system. Earlier this week, Adnan Hussain MP was met with a severe online backlash as he seemingly conflated race with religion. This is not the only example of this conflation, though, is it? As Labour's own definition of Islamophobia, written by, well, in my opinion, the wettest Tory in the land, also conflates racism with Islamophobia. That was Dominic Grieve, former Tory MP. We risk a very slippery slope towards authoritarianism if we go down this path. Where do you stop legislating when it comes to making offensive remarks illegal? Free speech would end in this country with thunderous applause from MPs sitting in the heart of our democracy. And frankly, I don't care if you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Hindu, or any race, gender, religion, or otherwise. If you don't like our modern values and way of life, you have the right to freely live somewhere that aligns with your desired culture. Don't bring it on top of everyone else. It cost us hundreds of thousands of lives to protect free speech 80 years ago, and to slip into fascism because of vocal minorities because of their attack on free speech, essentially. Well, that would dishonour those veterans less than a century later. Well, Kai, I want to talk to you first about this because there is a lot of concern Labour are going to bring in these Islamophobia laws. Of course, you know, we've seen multiple stories over the last 9 months that may allude to this. The judiciary seems to be massively overreaching in this area, sort of constructing its own laws, in my opinion. What's going on? Why has this only happened in the last 9 months?
Look, there are hundreds of new Labour MPs, right? Now, to say that there are concerns that the Labour Party is going to introduce blasphemy laws is ridiculous. Just because a few MPs, and I'm pretty horrified by some of the questions in Parliament asking, will the Prime Minister commit to measures prohibiting the desecration of Abrahamic religion's texts? That's ridiculous. But to extrapolate that and say the Labour Party is pushing for blasphemy laws is just as ridiculous.
OK, but can I just ask you one more question? Hang on.
It's not going to happen.
Because in Labour's own set of rules, and its party rules, it defines part of Islamophobia as racism, buried in racism, or something along those lines. How is racism and religion, how are they the same thing? Is this Labour got this wrong?
No, not at all. And
hang on,
they're not conflating. They're not conflating. No, they're not. Because we know that people who are Muslims are also usually from a different ethnic background than white Britons.
So hang on. What race are Muslims then?
They're not a race, but as
you
I just
said that it's the same thing.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't, Alex. You know that.
What did you say? Well, let's clarify.
No, I'm saying that there's a correlation. And so actually, sometimes when you talk about issues of religion, you can also talk about issues of race, and they are, it makes sense to talk about the two together.
Muslims?
Yes.
Will they not fall under your definition?
As you know, I just said that the majority of people who are Muslim are also not of white British background.
So how does
That's not the same as conflating the two, Alex.
It still doesn't make sense.
No, it does.
How does that work with Catholicism then? Because people from the Caribbean are Catholics, people from Italy are Catholics. They're all different races and they're one religion. So how would it work for them?
Well, if it was
Catholic phobia, how would that work?
Well, if 90% of Catholics, for instance, were from South America, say, and were from a Latino background or whatever, then there would be a relevant comparison to make between race and religion. I mean, this is just completely ridiculous. It is fair to talk about Islamophobia in racial terms because of the makeup of the people who worship Islam.
Right. Let me come on to Trey here, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Should we legally be allowed to burn religious texts? Like
Honestly, guys, I think we shouldn't be. I don't think we should burn any religious texts. I mean, again, in all Abrahamic religions, right? You got whether it's the Torah, whether it's the Bible, whether it's... Why do you want to do it? What message does it send that you want to desecrate books that are sacred to so many people? We're talking about billions of people. It shouldn't be.
But that's a different conversation. I would never burn a religious book because I've been brought up to be respectful.
And it is about respect, yeah.
But I still think that it shouldn't be illegal to do so because it's a freedom of expression. And the problem that worries me is we see other religions stamping and burning our flag, burning the Bible.
And
nothing
that's equally
happens.
wrong, though. Well, those things are equally wrong.
But nothing happens.
So my argument would be to you, Trace, where does that outrage stop? Because you're basically banning the idea of burning a religious text because of offence caused by people, because it's offending people.
It's actually deeply offensive.
Okay, well then do you ban burning flags? Because some people would see their religion
a flag is different. I think a flag might be different, but I would probably even include that, potentially.
Okay,
Why can't we hold some things in society as sacred? Things like religion, things like people's nationality. Why not?
Will, what happens if we continuously ban things because people are outraged by them?
Then more and more things get banned until you have one singular ideology which is enforced by the state. That's called fascism, and that's why we support freedom of speech. Trey, you've just said these things are deeply offensive. I'm still waiting to hear your argument. I don't care if you're offended.
Argument's simple, right?
You are allowed to offend people.
No, but some people are so deeply offended.
Okay.
If we're going to call ourselves decent, civilised people, and I would say this country is probably the best in the world in terms of its tolerance, why would you tolerate desecrating what people see as sacred?
I believe...
And I think it's the same thing with having parades where you've got images of Jesus kind of depicted in the same way. I think that's also wrong.
I offend people when I say that a man can't become a woman. Should that be illegal too?
No, that's different,
What?
I think.
Well, is it? Because if I find it deeply
Hang on, one at a time. Go on, Kai. Why is it different?
No, I actually disagree with Trey on this. If I find something deeply offensive, like what Ray just said, do I get to then impose that on the rest of the population?
Well, no, obviously, we're going to have to choose what is and what can and can't be done. But we do know that there are some things that you do. But, I mean, why would you want to burn a religious text?
Okay, let me ask. Who gets to choose? That's a good question.
No, but why?
Who gets to choose what's right?
I guess we as a society have to choose. But I see it as the same. Burning a Bible is wrong as well. I mean...
This is the interesting part, right? Because I believe it's wrong. I wouldn't burn any religious text, personally.
Why do it?
But I want people to have the right to do it. Like the same way that when the Charlie Hebdo attacks happened in France, I want the right for people to be able to mock religion, mock whatever thing they can mock. Any should be able to mock and make comedy out of anything.
How about Burning on Liberty by John Stuart Mill? I think I care about that just as much as someone who cares about a religious text. Is that allowed? Should we?
But guys, they look at it like this, right? As a society, we seem to have slipped to a point where nobody believes in anything. Don't you want to stand up for anything?
No,
we talk about the monarchy. I'm quite pro-monarchy. Can we not stand up for anything?
I wonder, Trey, if this slippage applies to being offended, and because now everyone's offended by something, we're getting to a point where everything is going to be banned. And actually, we need to step back and we need to say to everybody, you don't have the right to not be offended. Get over it.
Which I 100% normally do agree with. But I just think when it comes to religious text, something that we've had for centuries, why not hold a few things sacred? We do hold a few things sacred in our culture,
I just want to give a different spin on this to you as well, Trey, and I'll bring Kai back in as well. There is that definition of Islamophobia in the APPG, it's an all-party parliamentary group that has adopted it, and the Labour Party have adopted it, which conflates, in my opinion, racism and Islamophobia. Do you accept that you cannot conflate the concept of religion with race?
Yeah, I do, and I think nothing in some way should be above criticism, because we should be allowed to critique things, and that's why I disagree with some sort of legislation against that. You know, religion and race is different. I do get where Kai's coming from, because most people would associate Islam with people who are brown. I get that, but we should be allowed to debate and talk about stuff. But as a society, some things we should agree with, it's just wrong. Now, I don't mean throw people in jail. jail, but maybe a fine, or something that reinforces that we just don't tolerate this. And I don't care whether someone's Jewish, Muslim or Christian. Hold something sacred. Would you guys not agree?
Yes, but what I would argue is sacred, Trey, is the right of freedom of expression.
100%.
Right? So what my argument for this is that we decided all the way back in 2008 to banish blasphemy laws in the United Kingdom, because what we hold more sacred than anything else in 2025 and our modern Britain is our right to freedom of speech and our right to express yourself, even if it causes offence to people. And that's one of the things I want to protect.
Would you be OK no matter what the category is? For instance, there are some people who are talking about MAPS, right? Minor attracted persons, for instance. Would you be OK with that being said out loud, for instance? People talking about it and advocating for it.
You're talking about something that's illegal. Paedophilia is illegal.
So some things are illegal then?
Yes, it's illegal. Right? The act of it is illegal, but that's different because that's causing harm to somebody. There's a difference between being offended and causing harm. Talking about it, people talk about it isn't
illegal,
right? Yeah. So people talk about it all the time, and I'm offended when I hear it, but I actually would rather they said it out loud, wouldn't you, Will? Rather they said it out loud than it go underground.
Of course I would, and that is also a really good argument. But there's a really simple point here, and that is, as a society, we have forgotten that there is a distinction between things that are morally wrong but should still be legal nonetheless, because the alternative of making it illegal is more dangerous. We can, as a society, Trey, communicate our disagreement with this on a moral level, but we can still also say the right to be able to do it is of the utmost importance. Is that distinction?
Let's bring Kai in on this one, because Kai, listen, Labour is going to have a battle on its hands with the public on this one, I believe. Do you think that they're going to push ahead with these Islamophobia laws? What's your take on it, and do you think they should?
I don't think they're going to be pushing ahead with blasphemy laws. Of
course they will.
I do think that Labour has a problem at the minute, and the UK has a problem with sectarian politics coming into the sort of public discourse. But on blasphemy, I mean, I can choose of my own free will to become a Christian, to become a Scientologist, to follow Jared Leto's cult. That doesn't mean that those texts that underpin those religions become sacred. Now, you can take this so far and ban so many things.
I don't agree with blasphemy.
I just don't think that you can
you are right.
assign things that are sacred.
No, I'm talking about desecration of things that people hold as sacred. But it's slightly different from blasphemy laws. You should have every view you want.
These are blasphemy laws, and governments will choose what is included and what's not, and that disturbs me.
Yeah, I find this whole debate really disturbing, because I felt like we had settled this a really long time ago. And what I value so much more beyond anything else is our right to freedom of speech. I'm seeing that under attack more and more often. I'm seeing the justice system become two-tier on this. If there is an Islamophobia law that comes out, that will certainly give some more people privileges over others, particularly people who follow the faith of Islam.
Blasphemy laws were only repealed this century, also.
Yes, that's 2008.
Yeah.
But we have decided since that shouldn't be the case. That's the point, right? So we have lived all this time without them.
And Alex, to your point, we're never having this conversation if there's any sort of offence that is given towards the Christian faith, for example.
Yes,
this
that's very true.
Exactly, and that is the issue, I think. I'm talking about, we're talking about all of those faiths. Right? Yeah. We're talking about Judaism, we're talking about Christianity. They're all literally Abrahamic religions.
This is the inevitable consequence of policing speech. It is inevitably subjective.
Another fiery start to the Saturday Five. You only get that here on this show, don't you? Still to come tonight, Wes Streeting says he will defend tax rises funding GP appointments. I wonder what Dr. Renee will say about that. But next, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch claims Britain has been shafted by the US trade deal. Is she right? You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News. Don't go anywhere.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and he did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. I've got your comments here. Grumpy Grandad said, let's hope Kai remembered his beaver suit. Yes, at 8 o'clock we have Beaver News. It will be back, I promise you that.
We do, yeah.
Nikki Wild says, Keir Starmer is winning on the economy. This is about Kai's topic. I've just choked on my vodka. We need some of that here, Nikki. We need some of that.
You know what? That's funny, because so have I.
Talking of choking on your vodka, put it down for a second, because it's time for our next debate, and I believe it is Kai Wilshaw.
It is indeed. I'll repeat it again and again until the cows come home. Keir Starmer is winning for Britain. Now, this week, Keir Starmer penned an incredible UK-US trade deal. It's the first of its kind since Donald Trump placed tariffs on the entire world a month ago. Now, it slashes car export tariffs from 27.5% to 10%. It completely gets rid of steel tariffs. Now, the fact that this is the first deal by the US really shows that the critics were wrong about Keir Starmer's foreign policy for a very long time. Now, before the election, we heard that David Lammy's previous comments would be an issue, that their trip to Mar-a-Lago was ridiculous and unjustified. We then heard that Peter Mandelson being appointed as the ambassador to the US was going to go down like a lead balloon. We also were told that not retaliating on tariffs made us look weak. And look where we are today. Now, at every stage, people have criticised Keir Starmer for his approach. Kemi Badenoch this week has continued to do that, of course, saying that Britain's been shafted by this deal. Now, I know she's desperate, but even her own shadow business and trade secretary disagrees with her. And this also comes after a week where the Indian trade deal that was signed was, we saw Kemi Badenoch peddling misinformation about the deal before she saw the small text. Now, despite domestic struggles, and I agree that there have been missteps by this Labour government here in the UK, but can't we agree that by handling Trump, leading on Ukraine, signing deals with India, the US, and soon with the EU, Keir Starmer has been leading this country and is doing, on the foreign front, an incredible job.
Kai, how do you think international diplomacy works? Do you think this was just cooked up in the last month? This has been going on for like 8 years, and Keir Starmer just so happens to get the fag end of it.
No, that's not true.
Well, OK, so what's likely to have happened here is that the tariffs that Trump imposed has forced our hand. Boris Johnson didn't do a trade deal at the time, and now we've had to do one. So actually what Trump's done has played his hand very, very well. He's forced us to do a deal. And what Kemi Badenoch is saying is correct in the sense that it's actually not the best deal we could have. Now, however, I want Britain to be successful, so I am supportive of this deal. And it doesn't create any visa burdens on the United Kingdom, unlike the trade deal with India, which will undercut British workers. And that is where my concern always lies. Is this deal going to undercut British people? The US trade deal doesn't, but the Indian one does.
Let me just take Will's point first. I agree. Trade deals take decades, right? This one is different. And the reason it's light on the detail, and the reason it's not a comprehensive trade deal like the one we've been chasing since Brexit, is because it is a direct response to the tariffs. Every country in the world is chasing that kind of deal. We're the first ones to achieve it. That is at Keir Starmer's door. That is not thanks to other governments. The Indian deal is different. And of course, actually, Kemi coming out and saying that this treatment of national insurance contributions by Indian workers who are sponsored by Indian companies to come to the UK, her coming out against that is ridiculous because actually Indian officials who worked on that trade deal said it was on the table.
Well, she's denied it. Just to be fair to Kemi Badenoch, she has come out and denied that very strongly. What I would say, actually, you know what, Trey, let's get your thoughts on this. Do you think we've been sold out here by Keir Starmer on both trade deals, or is this good for Britain?
I think in some ways he got probably the best he could have got out of the States, to be fair. Not that it's great, probably should have been done a long time ago, but definitely I think with the Indian thing and the visa issue, that's going to be an issue, because one thing I know Reform talks about is actually having a 20% visa cap to favour British workers, whereas with India it's going to be it's more favourable. It basically seems like both deals are more favourable to India or to the States.
What does that
What
does that say? I mean, I tend to agree with Trey. What does that say about Britain in 2025?
No, I think what it says is that this Labour government are possibly the worst negotiators of anything we've ever seen, and we've seen that time and time again. However, I think the deal that's been salvaged from America saves 250,000 jobs at Land Rover. That's fantastic. It does send 350 ethanol production up the Swanee. But I don't believe this was even negotiated. I think we have done what Trump has told us to do. I think we are like the dog on the tail on the dog, nothing else. And I think that's really sad. But I think it was better slap in the face than a punch in the face.
Can I follow up on this? Is also where the Chagos deal is so disastrous, above and beyond just giving those islands away, is that it signalled to the world that the UK is a soft touch and the UK are terrible negotiators. After Trump saw that, I'm sure he thought he could get away with murder with this deal.
OK, I think that's absolutely right, by the way. I think we really sold ourselves short there. OK, we're moving on to our next topic. Who is it going to be?
Myself.
Go on then, Trey.
So, I'm going to start off with this. Reform UK has broken the system, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to take you back, guys, right? It's 1997, I'm 22, and we've got a new government in, Tony Blair, and we're all singing, things can only get better. And it did for a short while. And then we had the Iraq War. And then we had the credit crunch and the banks were bailed out. And then we had a litany of stuff. We had COVID, we had the invasion of Libya and the migrant crisis, that and the original Libyan Iraq war cause, etc., etc. And it's just been one thing after another. And I think one thing that's happened is the ordinary people have felt unheard, unseen, unloved in any way, shape, form, especially, you know, for working class Britons. Nobody's been listening to them. And we've had this two-party system, which I think has just got very, very arrogant. You know, they're passing the buck to each other, blaming each other for what's not been done, but the system has changed the same. It actually stayed the same. But what I love about Reform UK doing so well this week is that it's broken the system, and that is a good thing. Now, I may not agree with everything about Reform UK. There are some great things about their manifesto. There are some not so great things. I think there's some fringe elements of Reform UK that I certainly don't agree with. But what I love about Reform UK is it's brought about a sense of freedom of speech. It's brought about a sense of us thinking for ourselves. We no longer have politicians necessarily going to be dilly-dallying about what a woman is necessarily and having all these cultural wars and people fighting against each other. Now is a time for us to actually start to think. what is it we want, what do we want this country to be, and we can actually crack on with it, and it's great to have that system utterly broken.
Yeah, I think there is a feeling amongst the country that people have been ignored for a very long time, and there was an opportunity for Labour as they came into office, Kai, to finally fix that, and they haven't done it, have they? They're absolutely tanking still in the polls.
Well, I'd say that they were shafted, not the UK, thanks, Kemi. Reform UK being good for UK politics, you know, they are speaking clearly to a feeling across the country. And I agree with you, actually. Your analysis of where we may have gone wrong, what's happening in this country is quite disturbing and shocking. But the antidote is not Reform UK. Right. Now, let's not pretend that they're new, they're this new animal. This is UKIP, Brexit Party. Reform UK now is the newest redux of what Nigel Farage is doing.
I actually think the best thing to take from this is that for decades now, people just voted Tory or Labour because they thought that if they didn't, their vote would be wasted. And they probably didn't vote as much for reform in the general election for that very same reason. Oh, my vote might be wasted. Now they've looked at these results and they've got some courage. They can think, well, actually, maybe my vote isn't going to be wasted, and it isn't just a two-party system anymore. That has to be good for democracy.
Amen. Yeah, what do you make of all of this?
Yeah, well, can I just call up this point that somehow there are either fringe elements in reform or, you know, reform is not the answer, insinuating that they are an extremist party. The answer is this is an old-school centre-right platform. This is something which Margaret Thatcher would have looked at and gone, yeah, this makes incredible sense to me. But because the Overton window has been shifted so far to the left over the last 20 years, you have people on the left, like Kai, who say, oh, this is suddenly, you know, fascist or extreme or far right. This is an old-school centre-right platform.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Will. I think that times are changing. I think the local election showed that people are willing to put their vote elsewhere now unless governments will listen to them. Right, still to come tonight. Should migrants speak English if they want to live in Britain?
Yes.
But, well, yeah. There we go. We don't need to do that one. There we go. But next, Wes Streeting will defend Labour's tax rise funding for GP appointments. We will see what Dr. Renee has to say about that. You're with the Saturday 5 Live on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell across central parts of Europe, the potential to see some quite heavy thunderstorms, but elsewhere it should be mostly dry. Plenty of sunshine, bar the odd shower across parts of Greece, but Croatia, Montenegro, plenty of sunshine here. But as we shift our way further west, some heavy thunderstorms possible, particularly across northwestern parts of Spain, southern parts of France, but elsewhere across Spain and Portugal, Madeira and also Tenerife, largely dry with sunny spells and feeling warm in the sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, this is your latest GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. It is looking like a fine, dry and sunny weekend to come for many of us. There are two areas of low pressure just to the far north and south of the UK at the moment, but really it is high pressure that's still holding on for the time being, helping to keep it fine and settled for the vast majority of us. So that means it's going to be staying dry and there'll be plentiful amounts of sunshine right across the UK for those that are heading outside. Do remember that we do have high UV levels at the moment, so skin protection probably is advised if you are going to be outside for prolonged periods of time. It'll be a touch breezy around some coastal areas, but certainly with the light winds inland, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Highs around 22, 23 degrees Celsius for parts of the Moray Firth. Even a few showers perhaps for the Highlands, maybe into Northern Ireland in the afternoon, but you will be fairly unlucky to get hit by one of those. Certainly the dry weather will be persisting for most. Highs are around 23, 24, possible across central southern areas of England as well. But we cast our eyes down towards the far southwest where cloud will be building throughout the day, and we will eventually start to see some showers spreading from the Channel Islands and into parts of Devon and Cornwall later on this evening and overnight. These do have the potential to be quite heavy and thundery in places, with some short, sharp downbursts in places, but they will also be quite sporadic, not everyone seeing them. Most everywhere else staying dry, and it will be a mild night to come, certainly frost-free for pretty much all of us as we kick off a Sunday morning. Again, we'll be watching as these showers swirl around the far southwest, again primarily limited to these regions, but again they could be on the heavy side if you do catch them. A few showers again possible for parts of Northern Ireland and Northern Scotland, but the bulk of England and parts of Northern Wales really staying dry once again. It'll be feeling warm again, highs now up towards 24, maybe 26 degrees Celsius. And that is going to be continuing as we head throughout the next week. The showers will tend to ease off throughout Monday and into the middle part of next week, dry and warm for most.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Please get in touch with gbnews.com/your say. Let me just read a comment out here quickly for you. Lady of the House says, Alex was Kai on another planet on voting day. Ronnie says, all across Britain, a quiet rage is building against the assault on British values.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And don't forget to ask your Ask the 5 questions. That's off. Anything can go in that hour. By this is the 8 o'clock hour. Anything can go. Ask the 5, any questions you like. And we've also got a poll. So gbnews.com/poll. The poll is this. Should we bring back capital punishment? Has reform gone woke on flags? And 3, should we ditch the monarchy? But now it's time for our next debate. Who is going up next?
Which is moi.
Go on.
OK, so this week I was really pleased when West Streeting said there was another £120 million for GPs. Why wouldn't I be? I am a working GP. But then I listened to some of the figures that he trotted out, and he was telling porkies about those figures. So let me unpick that for you. He said that under Labour there have been 1,500 more GPs. That is not true. So what is true is that 900 GPs have stopped doing locum work and are now full-time equivalents. But in all, 1,200 locums are still sitting there at the base and can't find jobs. There's actually been a flatlining of GPs in the system rather than an increase, and at worst, there's probably been a decrease. So there are now GPs out there without a job. I know one of them who can't pay his mortgage. I can't get any extra locum shifts. 2 years ago, I could get one every single day of the week if I wanted one. Why is this? It's because the extra money now is going into the ARRS scheme, which is to employ physician associates, physios, pharmacists, those kind of roles. So yes, there are more GP appointments, but not necessarily with a doctor. We know this is dangerous for you. A young woman has already died who saw a PA twice and got turned away for anxiety when she had a blood clot. So I would say to Wes, yes, please, give us more money, train more GPs, make patients safer and happier.
Kai?
You know, all I've heard from that is, OK, we're annoyed about some changes in the naming of, OK, what is an appointment with a GP versus not, you know. But actually, there are more appointments. Labourers deliver, but there are more appointments. Mistakes will always be made in a healthcare system as big as ours.
Oh, it's OK then.
So, no. But come on, can't we celebrate the fact that Labour is actually delivering on that promise to have 2 million more appointments per year?
We can't, Kai, because we've got GPs now who are unemployed.
But we've also got people who are getting scans for cancer, who are getting operations in the NHS, more so than the last government, and that's a bad thing.
I don't think we are, actually. Have you got that data?
Well, that's the result of having more NHS appointments.
No, but
that was the manifesto pledge from the Labour Party.
These were GP appointments.
Yeah, but also...
they're not GP appointments, Kai. They're with a physician associate or a pharmacist. They're not GP appointments.
I mean, it feels very much to me, Will. I mean, you're a migrant to this country, right? So you would have experienced the Australian healthcare system.
Yeah.
Just maybe for the audience's sake, how does it stack up compared to the NHS?
I think if you look at it simplistically, if you think of the American system being too far on the privatised side, I think if you look at the NHS being too far on the public side, I think Australia actually does have a happy medium where you do have a private system which actually then is strong, and so therefore you don't have people just flooding en masse the equivalent of the NHS in Australia.
Yeah.
So I think you do need to actually argue for and support private healthcare in this country to a greater degree, because that ultimately is what strengthens your public healthcare system.
Yeah, Trey, do you think we've become religious about the NHS in this country?
I think we have.
To the extent where, you know, any criticism of it, while the Tories were in government, they couldn't touch the NHS because the left would just literally scream privatisation. In fact, led by donkeys, put out a whole piece about the US trade deal, and they put a picture of Trump's face up and said, he's coming for the NHS if you do a trade deal with Boris Johnson. They're very quiet in the last few days, by the way, that campaign group, on that same issue. But are we religious about the NHS?
I think we are. I think we're overly religious about the NHS. I think you're right. I think we should have an element that's quite private. I don't mind paying to go and see my GP. And I think a lot of people who can afford to do it should do it. There should be an element of privatisation. I think France has a slightly better system than us.
I actually don't think we need to privatise the NHS. I think it
Not the whole lot.
I think it can be knocked down to the bottom, rebuilt with clinicians from the bottom and still be free at the point of contact. But we have to be honest with the public, and we have to say, this is the list of things we currently do on the NHS. And then, like Australia, we should say, do you think the NHS should be doing IVF, vasectomies, boob jobs, whatever? Because if you don't, let's do it as a not-for-profit tariff in the NHS. So it's still cheaper than private healthcare, but it isn't going to save your life. It's a luxury. We'll do it that way. That's how I would do it.
I'll never forget that comment when Keir Starmer was asked, you know, would you go to private health if your child is suffering from a life-threatening illness? And he said, no, if that doesn't prove that this is a cult, then I don't know what does.
OK, I got to bring you some breaking news, and that India-Pakistan ceasefire seems to be very short-lived. As India's foreign minister says, Pakistan has already violated the agreement. They went on to say its armed forces have been given instructions to deal strongly with the violations along the border. Remember, it was Donald Trump who just said earlier today that he had brokered the truce. Shocking stuff, of course. Two nuclear powers, a very dangerous and hot environment there, and I'm sure many people are on the edge of their seats across India and Pakistan. That deal wasn't very long, was it?
Well, maybe he said 30 minutes when he meant 30 days.
Indian ministers and MPs actually said that Donald Trump had nothing to do with it. Was he just trying to claim victory?
Yeah, he does do this. And actually, I would go further and say, and I know this is going to be unpopular, but actually, the fact that Trump reneged on so many of the West's commitments on Ukraine means that lots of big powers, like China, like India, think they have a license to do what they like in the areas of influence. We're going to see much more of this in the coming years because they know they can get away with it when Donald Trump is president.
To be fair, Kai, this is a dispute that has been going on for decades. It's never been settled since the actual partition of India. So I think that's a bit rich.
Trey, we've seen lots of street protests here in Britain, and many people have been asking the last few days, has multiculturalism failed? Are we seeing people protesting foreign wars from Gaza to Ukraine to now this every week or so on the streets? So is multiculturalism dying in this country?
No, I wouldn't say that's a reason to say that multiculturalism is dying. I think multiculturalism is actually doing really well. And the funny thing as well, you look at the States, I think the States is actually really powerful and doing well because it's got a multicultural society. I think what people are doing now is just voicing their concern for what's going on, which is why I spoke about the Iraq war earlier. Things that are happening overseas are impacting us. Look at Ukraine, it's impacted our food prices, impacting our oil prices, it's decimating Germany's economy, the rest of Europe. We should be actually talking about why these things... I don't understand it as a species. We can't just deal with wars.
Yeah, I mean, Will, the final word to you on this one. Should we just be butting our nose out of all of these foreign wars and saying, get on with it, it's none of our business?
No, I don't think so, because it has implications for the United Kingdom. We are seeing ethnic sectarian violence in this country, and so therefore it does have consequences for us. So therefore it is, to an extent, our problem.
They also are nuclear powers.
Okay. Yeah, and there's that small matter.
All right, well, still to come tonight. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that if that develops any further. Please send your questions into gbnews.com/your say. But next, should migrants speak English. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What can you say about it? Has it lasted time? It was Slade in Flame.
Yeah.
Was it about Slade?
No, it was an amalgamation of lots of bands that we knew. Mm-hmm. The director and the writer, Richard Longcrane and Andrew Birkin, they sent us the script as a script originally, and we said, oh, bands don't behave like this in real life. So we decided to take them to America on tour for a month. So they saw what it was like really behind the scenes of a rock band. And we told them stories of what we knew about other bands, plus ourselves, and they amalgamated that into the film. So every scene in the film is true, not to say.
Result?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mind you, when it came out in '75, the critics were great to it, but the fans didn't like it. Yeah. It was too heavy duty for the fans because it wasn't a comedy film like they expected from a happy-go-lucky band like we were.
But you did that on purpose, though.
We did it on purpose.
To make a
we
film
didn't want to make it.
Dave Clark 5 had done Catch Us If You Can, Hard Day's
Oh, that was all that. Yeah.
They were all
there were lots out there.
Yeah.
We wanted to go totally the other way because nobody expected us to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, the fans thought, whoa, what's this?
But were you worried, though, at that time? Because
of course.
Well, hold on, maybe we've made a mistake here.
Of course. When it come out in America, they had to put subtitles on.
Oh, really?
Because they couldn't understand our accents. But 50 years on now, it's just gained momentum.
Yeah.
It's now become a real classic of the rock movie genre. It's Mark Kermode who gave it the title Citizen Kane of rock movies, which is a great accolade for us. Plus, the movie is great. The movie soundtrack is great as well.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
I think the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Please keep your comments coming in. I'm going to be reading them out throughout the show. As you know, we always love to hear from you. But we're going to move straight on to our next debate. And by process of elimination, there's only one man it could possibly be.
Big Willie.
Thank you, Alex. An immigration white paper is due out this week. It will include a requirement that anyone who is wishing to receive a work visa should be able to speak English. Now, file this under the policies that are entirely common sense, but will nonetheless be decried as bigoted by the out-of-touch, loony, race-baiting left. This is very simple, ladies and gentlemen. If you cannot speak English, you cannot assimilate. If you cannot assimilate, you should not be in this country. This really comes down to the basic fact that English or a common language is the glue that binds a culture together. It is the way that you communicate shared values. It is the way that you communicate what is and is not acceptable. What happens if you don't have that glue? Well, you have what we have in the United Kingdom today. You have a series of ethnic enclaves that are fragmented and are often dictated by the norms of the countries that those people have come from. Many of those norms are antithetical to Western liberal democracies. And you know what? When I put this out on Twitter, the best argument I heard against it was, well, what about the English pensioners in Spain? What should we do about them? Well, you know what? That's a decision for the Spanish government. What I would say is that Spain is not getting the level of cultural fracture that this country is suffering from as a result of its immigration mix. This is a sensible policy. We need to adopt it immediately.
Yeah, I do not understand how there can be any counter-argument to this. There is nothing you can do in this country unless you can speak English. You can't communicate correctly. You can't get your taxes sorted. We are spending millions of taxpayer pounds on interpreters.
Yeah.
We even saw a case delayed because there were a lack of interpreters in the court. So it's actually having an effect on our judicial system.
I see people in GP who have been here for 25 years and do not speak a word of English. I have to do it via language line or a translator. It's for bad medicine. And these people often are women. And I think it is a way in some cultures of keeping those women isolated. Because if you don't speak the language, you cannot go out and enjoy it. Some of them require fit notes to say they're not fit for work. Well, what work are they fit for?
Well, Kai, listen, this is a big problem. Of course, you just heard from Renee there about surgeries and things like that. It's affecting our system. Should migrants have to speak English before they come here?
Well, I think they should have a degree of English, yes. But this idea that they must be fluent, and the idea that, as you just said, if you cannot speak English, you cannot assimilate, that is ridiculous and unfair, because it places a huge burden on people who we might have need of their skills, right, in agriculture, in healthcare, in construction, who contribute meaningfully to the society.
What sort of skills? Hang on.
Well, let me actually finish my sentence.
Go on.
While actually learning English. Now, to require people to be fluent in English from the moment they step foot in this country means that we disavow millions and millions of hard-working people who would contribute to the UK.
Can I just come back on you? What jobs in this country can you realistically do where you'll get paid a livable wage that you cannot speak where you don't have to speak English?
No.
What jobs?
I'm not saying that you don't need to speak any English, but I agree that you can learn on the job while contributing to the UK.
I love things like
in agriculture, in construction.
Celia here claims Spain does not give free interpreters to non-Spanish speakers. You pay for your own over there. Should we be doing that here?
Yeah, probably. I think you're right. I think there's nothing wrong with learning English. In fact, it's such a bonus. And I know a lot of people who don't, especially women. I think it does hold them back. It's a lot easier to control women if they don't understand fully their rights. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it will benefit people learning English. Pretty much most of the planet speaks English. And I think you're right. I think what we should be doing now is what can we do that makes us cohesive as a society? And I think a language is a very easy one to do.
Can I just address the sophistry from Kai? Because this is what the left does with immigration. They always frame it around those, pleasant, engineers that are coming into the country, when we all know that is 0.1%, and the people that we are talking about are from barbarous third world countries that are flowing into this country that can't speak English, and you cannot understand Western liberal values until you are actually communicated those values in a common tongue.
You lot talk a big game about assimilation and integration, and then go on to talk about barbarous countries and signing off millions and millions of people who want to come to this country and who want to learn English while they're working in this country. You're signing them all off, and no wonder people don't want to integrate.
Can I come back on that? You said that we could be turning down millions of people who could learn on the job. We don't want millions of people doing our low-paid job. We want our own people to do them, and we need to sort that out.
And they don't want to do them.
I question you, if we do have the scientists and the engineers and the coders, how do you be a doctor and learn English on the job, Kai?
No, I'm not talking about doctors necessarily, but there's plenty of other healthcare jobs that you might not. Coder, the one language you need is, well, there's plenty of them.
You don't need to talk to your colleagues
coding language, probably.
Trey, you speak a lot about British values and wanting to find British values again. Surely it's very difficult when we are letting people, perhaps millions in some cases, like we had a couple of years ago, of people come into the country and they can't speak English. But there are also legal migrants that do come here and work really, really hard and do integrate. Are we not just putting a middle finger up to those people that have done that by saying, actually, come here and don't bother integrating. You can come here and speak whatever language you want. We'll pay for interpreters. Is that not a shame onto those legal migrants that made an effort?
I think so. I mean, because my wife was an asylum seeker. She came over here on a visa, and while she was here, Libya was being bombed. She couldn't actually go back and return. And she's done everything she can to assimilate. Her English is actually almost impeccable now. I think it is. I think it's important that people learn English when they come here, because otherwise they're much more likely to stay just within their culture and not integrate.
Yes.
And it goes against what we actually want. And I think that's the difference probably between the sort of Windrush type generation who did come and learn English and assimilate, and probably some migrants that are coming over now. Well, I've got to push back a bit about the barbarousness. My God.
Okay, no, guys.
Afghanistan is barbarous. It's not wrong to say that.
I'm sorry.
Do you think it is?
Well, I'm going to get in trouble. We can have this debate.
Afghanistan is barbarous. It's not wrong to say it.
Out of control panel. Coming up next, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble tonight. Coming up next in the next hour, Labour's red wall is crumbling. We'll reveal the extent of that in the next hour. You won't want to miss it. Trust me. Stay tuned with the Saturday 5.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Hope you've enjoyed all the sunshine that we've had around today, and it will be staying fairly fine and settled for most of us this evening and into the overnight period. We do, though, just have to watch out for some showers that are going to start drifting their way in from the southwest, so primarily for the Channel Islands, but increasingly spreading into parts of the West Country later on in the night as well. One or two of those could be on the heavy side. Dry for everywhere else, though, and it is going to be a mild night, certainly frost-free, but temperatures around 8, maybe 12 degrees Celsius as we kick off Sunday morning. We do have another area of rain just slowly pushing its way into the far northwest of Scotland as well. As we start off today, the bulk of it is still out towards the sea, but we'll eventually see some showers and outbreaks spreading into the Outer Hebrides, parts of the Highlands as well. Generally dry, though, for the rest of Scotland, Northern England and into Northern Ireland as well. For Northern Ireland, though, there will be some showers cropping up later on in the day, as this area of showers across the southwest will also continue its journey northward, so gradually spreading into southern areas of Wales into the afternoon as well. Certainly rain is needed after a very dry spring so far, but these showers are going to be quite short and sharp and will provide some torrential downpours in places with the potential for some thunderstorms, maybe even some lightning and hail, so some localised impacts are possible. Towards the east, though, it's going to be a very warm day for the time of year, highs of 24 to 26 degrees Celsius. Our showers in the south are all driven by this area of low pressure that is very slowly continuing its journey in towards the UK, and that will still be lingering into Monday as well. So further outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland, and then we'll see further showers spreading in from the south across Wales. But we wouldn't take the graphics here too literally. There are still uncertainties on the exact spread of these showers as we head throughout Monday, but certainly potential for further downpours are possible. But things will settle up quite nicely as we head throughout the rest of next week, with sunshine and warm temperatures continuing.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Yes, it's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5, the biggest, wildest TV show on Saturday night telly. I'm Alex Armstrong, along with Will Kingston, Dr. Renee, Trey Lowe, and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show, Will.
Yes, more triggered tantrums to come.
We'll be revealing the topic that you voted for us to go head-to-head on in Saturday's Scrap.
And we've got a big interview tonight about disillusioned Labour voters.
In Bunch of 5, we'll talk about some of the stories you missed this week.
And from 8 p.m, we'll have one more big interview and answer your questions in Ask the 5.
It's 7 p.m, and this is the Saturday 5. It's a really lively show tonight, guys. I tell you what, the panel is a mess. We're fighting every hour. You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. And of course, we always love hearing your views, so keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say and get your topics in for Ask the 5. Nothing is off limits, trust me. It's not off limits tonight, that's for sure. And we're going to give you the results for the Saturday Scrap. Well, 5% of you said we should ditch the monarchy. That's not a lot. 17% of you said we should debate on whether reform has gone woke on flags. And a whopping 78% of you want us to debate whether we should bring back capital punishment. We'll reveal who's going to be going head-to-head on that in just a second. But before we start tearing each other apart, here is Sophie Reaper with your Saturday.
Thank you, Alex. The time is just after 7 o'clock. These are your latest headlines. We'll start with some breaking news from South Asia in the last hour. India's foreign minister has reportedly stated that Pakistan has already violated the ceasefire agreement, with reports from the Reuters news agency suggesting that blasts continue and projectiles are still being seen in the sky. Earlier today, it was announced that India and Pakistan had agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. President Donald Trump declared the deal after a long night of talks led by the US, calling it a triumph of common sense and great intelligence. It was also reported that formal talks on a broader peace deal are now set to begin at a neutral site. Meanwhile, an emergency peace demonstration has been taking place in London's Parliament Square this afternoon around the current situation in India and Pakistan. Organised by the South Asia Solidarity Group, the protest was aimed at demanding, quote, peace, de-escalation and diplomacy, not more death and destruction. Dozens of people gathered at the rally, holding signs with messages such as "Say no to war" and "We stand with Kashmir." Sir Keir Starmer says Europe and the US are calling Putin out to agree a 30-day unconditional ceasefire in Ukraine. The Prime Minister, President Zelensky and other European leaders from the so-called Coalition of the Willing held a call with Donald Trump, backing a ceasefire from Monday. They're warning Putin that if he turns his back on peace, they'll respond by boosting Ukraine's economy and defence. And despite the Kremlin insisting no ceasefire can happen until the West stops arming Ukraine, Sir Keir Starmer said earlier that this ceasefire agreement is the best position they've been in so far. Elsewhere, police are investigating after convicted Southport killer Axel Rudiker-Barner allegedly threw boiling water over a prison officer at HMP Belmarsh. The officer was taken to hospital but discharged the same day. Rudiker-Barner is serving at least 52 years for murdering 3 young girls at a dance class in Southport last July. The prison service says violence behind bars won't be tolerated and they'll push for the strongest punishment. And finally, is it already bad news for sun seekers in the UK? Despite the Met Office predicting potential temperatures of 25 to 26 degrees this weekend, they're now warning of the potential for thunderstorms tomorrow. The forecaster has said that heavy and potentially thundery showers could arrive on Sunday, mainly affecting the West Country, South Wales and parts of the Midlands. However, from Tuesday, the high pressure will rebuild and dry conditions and sunshine will return across the country. Those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophie Reaper, more from me in the next hour, but now it's back to you Saturday 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. It's extremely lively tonight, I'll tell you that for sure. I was going to read a quick comment. Actually, Mark, it's Mark Chalner. I want you to stay tuned because I'm going to challenge Kai at 8 o'clock on your comment because he made some comments on Dewberry Show yesterday and we're going to dig into them, all right? But
boosting the ratings, one audience member at a time.
Absolutely. Let's crack on with tonight's main event. Yes, it's the Saturday scrap. Well, following an alleged attack on a prison officer by Southport's killer, Axel Rudiker-Barner, is it time for Britain to consider reinstating the death penalty for the most heinous crimes, such as serial killings and deadly terrorist attacks? Seconds out, we've got Renee versus Kai.
Brilliant.
OK, so I don't have an awful lot to say on this, but I'm going to say what I feel. I've always been opposed to the death penalty, and as those of you who watch the show over a period of time will know that I changed my mind after the monster, whose name I won't even say, murdered those 3 little girls in cold blood, inflicted the most incredible terror on them and the other children that he injured. It was clear from his bedroom that he was intent on causing violence. He admitted to the crime. He was seen on cameras. There was no doubt whatsoever that he did those murders. For this, I decided to change my stance because I always worried about miscarriages of justice. But it was very clear from this murder, that these murders, that there was no doubt. There was no doubt. And this person, in my mind, was so evil, so horrific, that there was no redeeming him. He wasn't going to be rehabilitated by a knitting class here and there in prison. He is not worth keeping alive on this planet. So for this reason alone, I changed my mind on the death penalty. And I would say that when it's very clear who did it and there is no doubt and the crime is horrific like this one, then we should actually be removing people from this earth. Having said all of that, if we can't get to that point soon, there is no way that this man should be sitting in his prison cell with a kettle, making himself a cup of tea, reading the paper and playing PlayStation. We should go to a US-style system. He should be locked in a cold cell with nothing on the walls, nothing to do for 23 hours a day. Warm meals should be slid under the door, nothing hot in case he throws it at one of our prison officers, and he should be allowed out in shackles to exercise once a day under supervision and alone. It should be a misery for him, and I do not care about his human rights. That is where we should be. We either have the death penalty for these murderous, vile people, or we make their life a living death penalty. That's it.
Look, Dr. Renee, you want law and order, so do I. But this would be state-sanctioned overreach on USSR levels. And it's wrong for a freedom and justice-loving democracy. Now, this, Dr. Renee, would have you believe that the government isn't competent to administer the NHS, is losing control of immigration, that has failed grooming gang victims, and yet she's the same person who is telling you now that the government can decide, in your example, on a case-by-case basis, perhaps, who gets to live and who dies. Now, Britain is not America. We don't need Texan-style execution rooms to show our mettle. We have principles, we have values. We've been talking about those on our show. And medieval retribution that's been brought up when horrible cases like this happen doesn't serve anybody. We are better than this.
Yeah, I used to buy into that, Kai, and I also never wanted there to be a miscarriage of justice. But I'm afraid the evil of this man, who has now this week thrown boiling water from the kettle that he's allowed to have in his lovely prison cell over a prison officer and injured them. We saw a couple of weeks ago some other terrorists throw hot oil because they were having cooking lessons or allowed to work in the kitchen, and water over prison officers. If we allow this to continue, our prisons are in such a state that a prison officer is going to die. And why should they? Why should they put their lives at risk for this scum? And I'm sorry, they are scum. This man is scum.
OK, I want to broaden this out to the panel. Kai, you'll get a chance to come back in just a second. I just also want to bring this to the audience, because there was a poll done autumn last year that where the British people have changed their mind on this quite substantially. So 55% of the British public now believe in the death penalty for the most serious crimes. The biggest change is with millennials. 3 in 5 millennials are in favour of it. Gen X has increased by 16 points on this matter. Trey, what do you make of that? Are you for the death penalty for those sorts of crimes?
Do you know what? Before I became a dad, I would have been slightly on the fence, a little bit. But as a father, my God, I think when it comes to the most heinous crimes, I think when it's kids, terrorism, old people, I have a lot of reverence for older people, for anyone that's vulnerable. I think, why not? And I think, in the end of the day, ultimately, the government will be the courts that would decide. I think when you could prove beyond reasonable doubt, because I know states have had some miscarriages of justice, but when you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, I actually would be for it. Or, what Dr. Renee said, their life should be absolutely miserable when they hate every single day.
That is a really good point, because there are some people in prison who are currently in isolation. I'll use Tommy Robinson as the example. He's completely in isolation. He can't see many people. He has got some freedoms. But he's been put away in isolation, and people like Axel Rudabakana are out with kettles and things to cook with. I'm not saying anyone in prison should be treated well, but surely there's, again, a sort of two-tier justice here. Is that not right?
It's interesting you say that, because actually, and what Trey, as you were talking, I was thinking, you were saying, if it's kids, if it's terrorism, if it's old people, and that goes to the heart of the problem here, doesn't it? Because you're saying that, those are your sort of justifications for the death penalty, but it won't be you. It'll be somebody else in the government deciding who gets to live and who gets to die. And that's my issue with this, is if we start placing moral judgments on different types of crimes, who should be put to the death penalty versus not, that opens the door for a lot of misdemeanors by a future fascistic government that none of us want.
No, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be for the courts to decide, and if you can be proved beyond reasonable doubt, and I think in this case that is the case, why should someone either get to live or live in relative comfort? I mean, imagine someone touching my son or harming my...
and they're not feeling that you've got justice done.
Or let the families decide what would happen.
I also like that idea. Will, you're a libertarian. Right? Is it worrying that the state should have control over the death sentence? And we're talking about assisted suicide quite a lot now. That's caused a big divide amongst liberals, whether the state should be allowed to basically let you commit suicide. Does the same apply for death penalties?
Alex, I'll let you in on something. I was in the pub this week and I was having this debate, and I fell into my default argument that I've always made when it comes to the death penalty. And I was saying a lot of the stuff that Kai said, and I had this uncomfortable moment where I realised I didn't believe the words that were coming out of my mouth. For the first time, I did not believe myself when I was saying it. And I realised that I think, like Renee, I think my stance is shifting on this. I think there is such evil that needs to be addressed via the death penalty, that morally I'm probably at a point now where I am moving in support of it.
Well, I mean, OK, so, Trey, I'll challenge you a little bit on this, because in America there is the death penalty. It still doesn't deter people from committing really heinous crimes. So is this just going to be another burden on the taxpayer? Because death penalty is expensive and there'll be lengthy courts, lengthy appeals. Is this just...
Must be allowed.
Well, that's a whole other thing, isn't it? Could we end up getting this very, very wrong if we go down that path?
I think it's not about deterrence. I think it's about retribution, isn't it, at the end of the day? And I think, it's still going to cost an absolute fortune keeping them in prison anyway, so why not just make it as streamlined as possible, but obviously try and avoid miscarriages of justice, because we do know the death penalty in the States tends to hit the least privileged in society, so we want to make sure it's done in a fair way. But we were talking, earlier about, what Britishness is, what values we stand for, and who are we if we don't have the values of protecting the most vulnerable in our society. Wouldn't that go some way to define, what it is to be British and the values that we abide by?
Just
I think
a little factoid on this, though, is that you can't make the economic argument for the death penalty, as in, it's so expensive to keep these people in jail for the rest of their life. In America, it is more expensive to put someone to death than it's to leave them in jail.
That's the point. And I think actually, I genuinely believe most British people, when they look at the case of Axel Rudy Cabana and they see the disgusting thing he did, the evidence was overwhelming. The crime was so heinous that surely someone like him, now he's gone and allegedly committed another crime while he's in prison. Why do we keep those people alive and we have to keep paying for them? Why can't we say something like, this is our red line as a society. If we have that overwhelming evidence, you should be put to death and not be a burden on society any longer.
Look, I'm as disgusted as all of you, but again, you say, that's our red line. Who decides that? And honestly, Trey,
we have red lines all the time.
We can decide it. We can have a referendum.
But on a matter as important as life or death, really, do you trust a government to decide where that line is? Now, Trey, you said earlier.
Yeah, but you said governments. Why not the people? Why not have a referendum? Why not ask people?
But it's the courts.
Yeah.
You
said the courts ultimately
are separated from government under.
But we have red lines in other areas.
But according to all of you, the courts, activist judges, are not to be trusted.
To support what Kai's saying, I think what you're saying is the government would decide the red line.
Yes.
The death penalty.
Or judges. And we've heard many arguments on this panel about why both government and judges shouldn't be trusted.
So
you talk about how a species like ours continues to have wars, and then you've been talking about
but we all have red lines. The
revenge.
government has red lines about when we go to war, which then also results in death. So there's always going to be red lines.
And in war, it's exactly the same. Retribution and revenge are some of the motivating factors. It helps nobody.
So you think it's okay to keep them in jail, nice and happy with their PlayStation?
I think values and principles are more important than seeking retribution.
Let's say that we agree that the death penalty can't happen, it won't happen, for all of the reasons you've just said. Do you agree with keeping these people in the starkest of conditions, so there isn't one moment of their life where they're enjoying themselves? Do you agree with that?
You know what? I don't see who it serves. I don't know that it would have a massive value
If I was the mother of LCB or Alice, I know who it would be serving.
Yeah, exactly right.
If it cuts costs, if there are ways to cut costs so that the burden on the state is lesser, but again, we're talking about retribution and revenge, and I don't see who it helps. It's not going to get it's not going to get the victims back, is it?
It would help me as a mother.
And that's the case in any crime.
It would help me.
Retribution has always been a long-standing principle in criminal justice, along with rehabilitation, along with several other factors. I actually think that is the strongest argument actually against the death penalty. Is that sort of punishment is worse than dying?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit drawn on the death penalty. I do think to start off with, we need to fix law and order and fix our prisons. I mean, the fact that some of these people are living in relative freedom inside the prison, to me, makes me feel a little bit sick, frankly. And I think the government's got to crack down on that first. And we need to be building a lot more prisons. There is a really big crisis happening in our prisons. We've been talking about that on this show for a very, very long time, especially that sectarianism. That's really,
well,
really
in some of our prisons, they are running the prisons.
They are running the prisons, as allegedly so. Right. Still to come tonight, though, our favourite part of the show, it's triggered tantrums. Let's have a look at those.
Stuffed in the Greens, you're completely out of power. What a pathetic campaign. Attach yourself to Abby Chatfield.
OK. I'm always...
Leave that there.
Just can't believe so people. But next we will all find out the devastating extent of Labour's dodgy start on its voters. You're with the Saturday 5 Live on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Eve, very good morning. You commentate on this. This is your subject. What do you think? Why is this happening? Because we're sitting now. I'm at a stage now where all my kids are growing up. Whatever. I don't have to face this thing anymore. But I'm suddenly stopping and going, what? What am I paying this for? Why are we paying this? Why is this going to 750 schools and not all schools?
So this is a pilot run by the Department for Education to look at how this programme can work. It was a manifesto commitment from the Labour Party at the last election, and they're very keen to roll this out nationally, but they're doing this pilot for a short period until July to see how they can do this effectively to ensure that it meets the most children. So really, that's a kind of sensible way of rolling out what is quite a big programme.
Yes, it's important to do the pilots and study it and see who it helps and who it doesn't and how expensive it could be if it's rolled out
getting the money
nationally.
to pay for this?
Well, exactly. What do they say about that, Eve? I mean, where are they going to get the money to pay for it?
So they've committed to 30 million towards it. To be honest, we're in a situation as a country where 1/4 of primary school teachers are saying that they regularly spend their own money on feeding kids. That cannot be right. We know that we've got a child poverty problem in this country, and I think it's a reasonably good use of taxpayers' money to be spending it on ensuring that children go to school and they are fed and able to learn.
Well, I just look and I think the basic primary parental responsibility is to look after your children, to feed your children. And I sit and scratch my head and say, of all the things that we can do as parents, all the things we can spend money on, are you telling me that you can't give your kid a bit of toast and a cup of tea in the morning?
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. It's an extremely lively show tonight, everybody, but we want to hear what you have to say. gbnews.com/your say and get your questions in for Ask the Five. I'm writing them down as you go along, so please keep them coming. And thank you for all your messages so far. What have I got here for you? I can find my notes for a second. I've been copy and pasting them from your say. Andy, okay, I'm not reading that one out, Andy, sorry. Not a chance in hell. I will never be on air again. Helen says, Kai, you're very charming, but sadly deluded. Tricia says...
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. No.
Not the best comment you've ever received on this show.
Ice Cold True says, the answer to the question about the death sentence is hell yes. OK, right, well, there you go. A new poll shared exclusively with GB News shows Labour's once solid so-called red wall is cracking. Nearly 30% of Labour voters now regret their 2024 election choice, double the rate of Tory voters, of which, there are a few anyway now, as Reform UK gains momentum following local election upsets. Analysts say Starmer's support is built more on anti-Tory sentiment than real backing, with growing frustration over housing, immigration and the cost of living. While Reform is now seen as the voice of those neglected communities. To discuss this, I am very pleased to welcome GB Insight founder George Buchan. George, thank you so much for joining us tonight. What is the story behind this? I mean, we've listed a litany of things there, but can you give us some insights into what is really, really upsetting those old Labour voters?
So thank you very much, first of all, for having me on. The really interesting data for me from this poll was, as you've said, the particular issues whereby people do not think that the government is actually hearing what they think and is on the same page as them when it comes to key issues like the cost of living, like immigration, like housing. And, as a result of that, we saw the local elections last week. We saw that people opted to vote for a different option, in this case, in the shape of Reform.
Interesting, because these issues, housing, immigration, cost of living, you could argue these are the same issues that cost the Tories the election. Are you saying that, from your polling at least, does it look like it's sort of people that voted for Boris in 2019 and swung back to Labour and now just thinking, goodness me, I can't vote for either of them again?
I think that is actually quite close to the truth. I think every election is essentially a choice. It's a choice between more of the same or for change. And in 2019, people voted for change. They voted for Boris. They voted for the levelling up agenda. That wasn't delivered. And then when it came around to 2024, after 14 years of Conservative government, people voted for change again. And after 10 months, the numbers in this poll clearly show that people do not think that the government is listening to them on these concerns, is acting on these concerns. And as a result, when in our system, where for such a long time it's been two parties, you've had one party that's had 14 years to try and solve these issues. You've had another party that's now been in government for 10 months. When both of these options have failed to deliver, of course, the only logical thing to do is to look elsewhere, to look and to vote for change.
Yeah, why Reform UK though? What is it that's about their message that's penetrating with the electorate in those particular areas? Is it the sense of patriotism? Is it the sense they're going to grasp immigration? Can you give us any insight on that at all?
I think it's a combination of those things. I think that there is a massive kind of disconnect between the majority of kind of politicians, the majority of people who kind of live in London and the rest of the country. And, you know, I would really recommend to anyone to come and sit in a focus group anywhere in the Red Wall, anywhere that's not really London, and hear how people talk. And in the way, I think Nigel Farage is a fantastic communicator. And one of the things which people constantly say about him, and people also said this about Boris as well, is that he has a way of talking to people in language they understand. And he is also not afraid to shy away from issues like immigration, which both the Conservatives, to one extent or another, under Rishi Sunak, and Labour are slightly more tentative around as well.
OK, I'd like to bring in my panel at this point.
So, hi, George, it's Renee. My gut feeling on this is that this last round of local elections have given those shy reform voters who thought their vote would be wasted in the election if they went for reform because the two-party system was so strong. Are you getting feedback that now this will give more people the confidence that their vote won't be wasted, and we might just see this going up and up as a result?
So the proof's in the pudding on this one, and you're absolutely right. It could keep going up and up and up. But I would also say that there is a bit of a danger when you try and extrapolate local election results and back in the day kind of European election results onto the kind of the national stage, because I think it's much easier in a local election to cast a vote for someone who's not one of the main two parties. I mean, if we turn our minds back to 2019 in the European elections then in May, what was then the Brexit Party achieved a massive percentage of seats, and then the Conservatives came back and won a huge majority in December that year. So it could certainly happen that this is another catalyst which will help reform keep moving forward, but there is a long way to go, and there's 4 years potentially to the next general election, and Labour can make changes, the Conservatives could make changes, and also reform could make mistakes in that time.
George, it's not so long ago in historical terms that Boris Johnson had his smashing Red Wall victory. The Conservatives are now flanked on the right by Reform and on the left by Labour. Is there a pathway for them still in the Red Wall, or really are they electorally up the creek?
I think it's very tricky for the Conservatives, and the reason that these voters, you would expect in the way that these things tend to traditionally go, that in the two-party system, the party in government, in local elections, people would vote for the other party that's not in power. But unfortunately, the Conservatives have got now 14 years of government still around their neck. And I think they've really struggled to differentiate themselves from who they were then at that point, and also to articulate why you should vote for them. After 14 years, if you care about the cost of living, immigration, housing, well, you had 14 years to deliver it. Why should I trust you with my vote again? Whereas Reform have the advantage of a clean slate, which is why it's much easier to vote for them.
OK, Kai?
Yeah, thanks so much, George. That's really interesting. 2 questions, if I may. One, and you've sort of inferred it already, how accurate are polls this far out of a general election? And the second part of my question, if they're to maintain the momentum that they have at the minute, what do you think Reform needs to be doing?
So to answer your first question, you're absolutely right. The context to these polls is really important. And I think as 4 years out from an election, it's very easy to say, you're phoned up by a pollster like me, or it's online or in a focus group, yes, I'll vote for reform, I'll vote monster raving loony, whatever it might be. It's very easy outside of that context. So I think that we do have to take these results with a little bit of a pinch of salt, both the kind of the public polling from the kind of general election vote question, but also the local election as well. And in terms of what do reform need to keep doing? Well, in my opinion, what I see from my polls is that people are aware of the party and they're aware of Nigel Farage, and they need to develop name awareness of other candidates as well, because ultimately, Farage is a very good communicator, but he also turns a lot of people off as well. Yeah. And they need to show that he's not just a one-man band, that they are a serious professional party, that they can answer the technical questions which the country is facing, but at the same time still stand by the issues which has got them to where they are right now.
OK, George Bucket, founder of GB Insight, thank you very much for coming on the show for those fantastic insights tonight. But still to come on the show tonight.
You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it.
Yeah. Oh, who would have thought that? Hey, how hard? It's this week's Triggered Tantrums. But next, would you be offended by someone calling you Darth Vader? You're with the Saturday 5 Live on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell across central parts of Europe, the potential to see some quite heavy thunderstorms, but elsewhere it should be mostly dry. Plenty of sunshine, bar the odd shower across parts of Greece, but Croatia, Montenegro, plenty of sunshine here. But as we shift our way further west, some heavy thunderstorms possible, particularly across northwestern parts of Spain, southern parts of France, but elsewhere across Spain and Portugal, Madeira and also Tenerife, largely dry with sunny spells and feeling warm in the sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Hope you've enjoyed all the sunshine that we've had around today, and it will be staying fairly fine and settled for most of us this evening and into the overnight period. We do, though, just have to watch out for some showers that are going to start drifting their way in from the southwest, so primarily for the Channel Islands, but increasingly spreading into parts of the West Country later on in the night as well. One or two of those could be on the heavy side. Dry for everywhere else, though, and it is going to be a mild night, certainly frost-free, but temperatures around 8, maybe 12 degrees Celsius as we kick off Sunday morning. We do have another area of rain just slowly pushing its way into the far northwest of Scotland as well. As we start off today, the bulk of it is still out towards the sea, but we'll eventually see some showers and outbreaks spreading into the Outer Hebrides, parts of the Highlands as well. Generally dry, though, for the rest of Scotland, Northern England and into Northern Ireland as well. For Northern Ireland, though, there will be some showers cropping up later on in the day, as this area of showers across the southwest will also continue its journey northward, so gradually spreading into southern areas of Wales into the afternoon as well. Certainly rain is needed after a very dry spring so far, but these showers are going to be quite short and sharp and will provide some torrential downpours in places with the potential for some thunderstorms, maybe even some lightning and hail, so some localised impacts are possible. Further towards the east, though, it's going to be a very warm day for the time of year, highs of 24 to 26 degrees Celsius. Our showers in the south are all driven by this area of low pressure that is very slowly continuing its journey in towards the UK, and that will still be lingering into Monday as well. So further outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland, and then we'll see further showers spreading in from the south across Wales. But we wouldn't take the graphics here too literally. There are still uncertainties on the exact spread of these showers as we head throughout Monday, but certainly potential for further downpours are possible. But things will settle up quite nicely as we head throughout the rest of next week with sunshine and warm temperatures continuing.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. Please get in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay and get your questions in for Ask the 5. It is our favourite part of the show. Some messages so far, or can I read some of these? You're very, very racy tonight on the Your Say. Maybe I'll come back to the break.
What about Labour and Nutters? Tories are impotent. That leaves reform from James Barker.
Well, that's okay.
I quite liked. We need to bring back straight jackets for the likes of Kai.
Yeah.
That was Will.
Thanks, Will, for that.
Alias. Okay, now it's time for this. Yes, it's a bunch of 5, a little bit different, on a different take on the news. Will, what have you got for us?
I've got a Star Wars-themed take on our snowflake society, Alex. This goes back to 2021, where Lorna Rook, who was working for the NHS at the time, conducted a Myers-Briggs personality test with her team. It's a test to understand what type of employee you are or leader you are or whatever. And apparently, Lorna got the Darth Vader personality, which is meant to mean that she was a highly focused individual. This apparently contributed to Lorna's low popularity amongst her team and her feelings of anxiety. And there's that buzzword again. But as opposed to just being an adult and laughing it off and moving on with her life, Lorna went to the Employment Tribunal. And as opposed to being adults and laughing her away, the Employment Tribunal handed your money to her in the shape of £30,000.
Well,
what is going on with our society?
The power of the dark side, Will. It's runs strong on the left, doesn't it? The force is certainly with her on that one.
But seriously, doesn't this speak to a society now where there's absolutely no resilience, where we just rely on a handout culture for every little slight? It's just so depressing.
Yeah, someone say she had the high ground. Is that right? Is that right? Is that right, Kai?
Yeah.
Do you think lefties are just losing it still? They're taking everyone to court these days. We're turning into America at this rate, aren't we?
Well, I think there's no implication that this Lorna is a left-winger, but it's ridiculous, obviously. But I quite liked Will's characterisation of Darth Vader as intensely focused. Well, is that what you'd put in his mid-year review at work?
In fairness, that is apparently what this particular personality type was meant to be. I will admit, it is a slightly odd way to present a personality category, but was he that focused?
It's a bit like... I think he was quite erratic, if anything. But he was around choking people around his workspace, Darth Vader, famously, wasn't he? Killing off anyone that disagreed with him. I don't know.
But Kai, I just want to pick you up.
Yeah.
We don't know that Lorna was a lefty, but we do know for sure that she was a snowflake.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, but snowflakes exist on the right and the left.
OK. Moving on, Renee, what have you got for us?
OK, I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but before I was in publishing and before I became a doctor, I was actually a world-class tennis player for Holland. I was in the top 5. I was in the top 5.
Hang on, how do we not know this?
Wait,
yeah,
top 5?
Top 5 in the world. I made a fortune. And anything I do now, I do for the love of it. I don't need the money because I was so
Can we
successful.
fact-check this? Can we fact-check? I need this to be fact-checked.
And I discovered this week that I have something in common with the deputy mayor. And there's a guy called Meta Coburn, MBE, who is Sadiq Khan's deputy mayor. And apparently, he was a world-class footballer. He said that he used to play for Atletico Madrid. And then he was scouted to go to Barcelona, I think, or Real Madrid. And actually, it's all a load of tosh. He wasn't any of those things.
You got me good there. Production team, just cancel the search. That was good. That was very good.
I get called gullible a lot on the show.
Yeah, we are quite gullible, aren't we?
That really takes the ticket, yeah.
But the conviction, wow, she said
wow.
blew me away.
It speaks to how impressive Dr. Renee is.
Yeah. That is so amazing. We should make the GB News Oscars.
This was the Monica Seles. I was trying to remember Honderkamp v Seles or Honderkamp v.
Did you like the played for Holland?
The Holland detail got me. Yeah.
The Holland detail was
But you know what?
it does talk to how, I mean, people do make up lies like this.
Well,
They're
apparently
going to get
this
away
guy
with
is
it.
MBE, but I'm now questioning, is he really?
Oh, well, there
Who
you go.
fact-checked his CV when he went to work?
What did he get the MBE for, I wonder?
Interesting, I don't know.
So
But obviously he's not here to defend himself. And maybe he's a very good player.
So let me tell you, his football career ended at 14 when he had a tryout for Atletico and didn't get selected.
I don't understand how people have the brass neck. Because you could probably get away with some of these lies.
If you can.
But why?
But what is it with Labour politicians and doing this? This is a trend. It is a trend amongst Labour. Why are they so insecure that they need to do this?
What could you possibly mean, Will? All their CVs are completely accurate and up to date. Well, let me just... well, of course, we have to have a right of response here. A spokesperson for the Mayor said this. This happened more than a decade ago when Mete Goban was a teenager and represented by a football agent. He has said publicly before that it was a naive mistake, which he has learned from and moved on from. Mete now makes a huge contribution in supporting the Mayor in cleaning up our air, improving our rivers and keeping London at the forefront of climate action across the world, because that is exactly what London needs, in my words.
Hot
that reply is actually worse than the stupid soccer story. Like, unbelievable. How can that be your right of reply?
Sorry.
Well, let me tell you my bunch of five, because this has sort of happened in the last 24 hours, and I just couldn't believe this one. Our beloved Prince Harry. He's a busy man. He needs his privacy. He needs his security, doesn't he? He needs all of that security to be here and to bring his family here because he's worried about Al Qaeda. However, The Sun reported today. I don't know if we've got the... Here it is. Prince Harry has been seen knocking on doors, ring doorbells and doorbells that capture footage. Well, there he is. That's him. And I didn't believe it. I thought this was a spoof when I first saw it. I thought someone had used AI here, but apparently this is verified to be Prince Harry because he did it to 3 separate people. I mean, what on earth is the Prince doing knocking on random doors? Is that a van behind him? Did he just get out of it? I don't know.
He's got a security detail in there.
The circumstances around this are insane.
I was reminded of that scene in Love Actually where Hugh Grant starts knocking on all the houses in the dodgy part of London to Carol.
Renee, what do you think he's running away from? Possibly could be his relationship.
The thing is, he clearly doesn't feel that he's that insecure or needing security if he's running around London knocking at random doors.
That's the point.
I have to want to congratulate our production team for that strapline knockdown.
Oh, it's genius.
I haven't seen that.
That really is
absolutely
brilliant.
We have the best production team on tonight, guys. Fantastic stuff. Kai, what do you make of this? Prince Harry, do you think now his whole claim about needing security is just out the window? What a farce, hey?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you do sort of wonder, what are the circumstances that lead the Prince of the Realm to be knocking on people's doors? I mean, I really want to know, but I don't know. Actually, maybe we don't want to know.
But when he did find the right address, he then proceeded to pick up the phone and order a delivery.
Oh, fair play. He's a man of the people.
Apparently that's true.
Is that true?
Which is completely against protocol because you don't know who's delivering the delivery.
Well, we've heard many stories, but week on week, some of those people aren't even citizens of the country. Trey, what do you make of all this?
I just think it's kind of hilarious because he was talking about needing security, and I'm looking at the white van thinking, has he got his security detail in there or whatever? But it's also quite humorous, and I think it just shows he's quite normal, isn't he? He's on the phone to a friend saying, what doorbell is it? Where should I be going? Is it there? Am I pressing the right one? But it's like, where's the security? They've got him forever.
He's sort of lost his royal charm, though, hasn't he? Because you think, well, at least get one of your security details.
It's a bit sad, almost, because why would someone else not knock on that door?
Well, or come out and greet him. He's a prince of the realm. I mean, you think go and meet Prince Harry. Just knock on the door, I'll come let you in.
Yeah, I'm in the bar, I'll be there in 2 seconds. Or they thought it was an Amazon delivery driver or something. Yeah, Prince leaving.
I just find this whole story so crackers. It genuinely blows my mind, not only because of that court case.
Alex, he is an absolute thicko. I think you're trying to overthink the motivations. He is thick as anything.
Allegedly.
In saying that, if we were actually to test that in a court of law, that would be quite interesting. So, no, allegedly.
God forbid. I mean, I do think this really does call into question all those things. He's cost the taxpayer a lot of money taking the government to court. He's embarrassed his family. He's been isolated away from King Charles.
I think he was looking for his dad.
Yeah, well, he obviously wasn't answering if it was him. But doesn't isn't this embarrassing for him that he got caught doing this? Because it really does call into question all those things that he's done, costing the country a fortune.
But he has spent years arguing for.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, could it even come into our minds that you would see Prince William knocking at doors?
Yeah, it was crazy. But he's talking about not bringing on his kids here. But anyway, look, let's move on. Bunch of five.
So my bunch of five is just purely because I've become a father, and I just wanted to get you guys' take on this. Obviously, you've got the fathers have a right to take paternity leave, but only 60% of them do, which means 40% of them don't do, which I find this a little bit quite sad because obviously it's about bonding with your kids, it's about kid having that sort of the father figure there. There are so many benefits. I mean, I've spent some glorious nights not sleeping, but changing the kid, bathing the kid, the rest of it, and it's just, I wonder what's going on that dads who can take paternity leave don't take that paternity leave.
But can both mum and dad take it together?
I believe so.
Oh, OK, all right. Because I know that when I had my baby, I didn't want Dad around. Go to work.
You didn't?
I want to be with my baby.
There you go.
You not be away from these little angelic face.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, listen, there's a strong argument to be made for men spending more time at home. But a lot of the men who've had kids I speak to say, actually, I didn't have enough to do.
Yeah.
And they said, different pregnancies, different circumstances, but they actually said, I didn't have enough to do, and therefore I felt like I was twiddling my thumbs. Wish I'd taken it later on in the baby's life when when the mum was going back to work. So there we go. But obviously.
I've got plenty to do.
Yeah. Carl, your bunch of five for us.
Yes, 2 polls on reform's rise and what it means for the next election. Now, we've got one poll from YouGov. Now, this really shows the defining issues that this next election is going to be fought on. 48% of Britons say that immigration is one of their top issues. It's up 4 points. The economy is only at 52%. It's down 2 points. And then we've got another poll as well from Luke Trill and the team at More in Common that shows that actually of those who would vote reform in the next election, only 42% of them voted for the party last year. So 2 massive trends here. Immigration becoming a top concern for Britons, as we've seen in the last few months, and reform taking voters from the Tories, from Labour, and winning people over who wouldn't consider themselves reform voters. That's dangerous signs for the Labour Party.
Are you going to pay me by cheque, bank draft? What's it going to be?
Well, just so everyone knows, Renee and Kai have a bet about the Welsh Synod going reform. Kai said it won't, Renee says it will, so we'll hopefully see that play out very soon. But I do think these numbers are surprising. People are fed up and down the country. People on the right, people on the left, people who are patriotic, and normal citizens just want their voice heard. I know we spoke about that a lot tonight, but unfortunately we have to move on. Triggered Tantrums is coming up next. They are the best you've ever seen. Let's have a quick look and show you those in just a moment.
Don't integrate. You're completely out of power. What a pathetic campaign. Attach yourself to Abby Chatfield.
Their meltdowns. We'll see you after the break.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Say that Mia Collins joins us in the studio now. Morning, Mia. Really good to meet you. And what's it like for you watching that experience back?
Lots of fond memories. I loved my time in the process, and TV shopping was definitely one of the big highlights for me. I loved it.
Was it really?
Genuinely, I really enjoyed it.
Because I wonder how much of these challenges and tasks do you come away from thinking, oh, that was awful?
For me personally, there weren't many occasions where I thought, oh God, what I've been able to do now is look back on all 10 episodes, and I'm actually really happy with my performance, so no regrets.
You're consistently strong.
Thank you.
That's why I was so shocked when you went out as number 6. I honestly thought you'd make it through to the final, but it was just that one mistake, wasn't it?
It was the wrong decision at the wrong time. Had it been another task, maybe I would have survived it through, but, it's so difficult to get to that final 5, and Jordan and Anissa are really strong candidates, so I think I just drew the short straw.
Did you go into it thinking this would help you as a business person, or is it a door to get into media, or what was the point of going on?
I think if you look at the general age of candidates nowadays, it's a younger younger audience, and I've grown up watching the show. So from my perspective, I'd always just grown up watching it thinking, God, I really do think I could do that. I am in the midst of prep for my bodybuilding competitions, so my time is very centred around training and trying to get as much content and insight into that as much as I can. I think bodybuilding is one of those sports that not many people know all too much about, and I think there's a few misconceptions of it. So if I can educate people and bring correct information about the sport through means that I enjoy, then so be it. And whatever comes of it, comes of it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Coming up from 8 p.m, it's Ask the 5 and our second big interview. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. That is on that bombshell cost of the COVID inquiry that dropped today. You won't want to miss Dr. Renee pulling that one apart, I tell you that for sure. We've also got some really great comments coming in from you guys on gbnews.com/yoursay. Let's have a quick look if I've got anything to show to you quickly. Yes, we've got Humpty Tilsley, who's just catching up, actually. They're watching in a slight delay. They said, personally, I think there's where it's absolutely clear who the crime was committed by, and the crime was a shocking crime like Axel Ruda Cabana case, then the death penalty should be punishment. There you go. But now, it's time for something a lot lighter than that. It's Triggered Tantrums. You've got a free ticket to this week's Ringmasters of Rage, Clowns of Collapse and Acrobats of Absurdity, all tumbling over zilch. Just wait until you see this lot. Will, what have you brought to the table this week?
I've got an Aussie tantrum for you, Alex. After the Australian election last week, this is Australian social media influencer Abby Chatfield responding to her critics online who said she was disappointed that the far-left Greens party underperformed at the election. Let's see Abby's nuanced analysis.
Sucked in the Greens, you're completely out of power. What a pathetic campaign. Attach yourself to Abby Chatfield and this is what you get. Losers. You got no power anymore at all. Sucked in, everyone's leaving the Greens because they're a party of hate and division.
On earth is
insightful stuff.
Loser.
And what did she say? Can you translate it for us?
She was pretending to be a right-wing online commentator who was apparently getting stuck into her. And this woman, by the way, interviewed the Prime Minister before the election. That is the quality of debate in Australia at the moment.
This could have been America, everybody. That could have happened to the United States of America. Kai, what do you make of all that craziness?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this reminds me a bit of the Greens in this country. Just as credible, just as nuts, now that they've got the fruitcakes over from the Labour Party after Corbyn. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that from the Greens in this country.
OK, Renee, what have you got?
Well, talk about what could happen in America. Did anyone see Michelle Obama and feel really, really sorry for her? Because she really struggled when she was living in the White House as the First Lady. Apparently, finances were tight. Have a look.
Many people don't know. I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay for their travel.
I mean, God, she had to buy her own food, like
God
we
forbid,
do.
God forbid, you had to do normal things.
Do these people not understand how they come across?
I don't think they do. They are
do.
in such a bubble, and this is why people who parade celebrities out in elections always lose them, because they show how out of touch they are. And people just want to talk about real issues. Spot on. Trey, what did you make of that?
I just think it's crazy, isn't it? It's like, the Democrats bringing out all of these celebs, thinking it will sway voters, but people are looking at multi-millionaires or people who are clearly privileged or have lovely houses in Martha's Vineyard, wherever it is, and just laughing and thinking, you've got no idea how I live day to day, when we are literally having to cut back. We are cutting back, and it seems insulting when, people who have so much are talking about them having to cut back.
OK, well, talking of someone cutting things back in their career, have a look at this.
Babe, can I go out with my friends tonight? Oh, please don't go. I'm going to be really lonely if you go, and I'm going to miss you so much.
Can I go out with my friends tonight?
Are you being serious? You were out with your friends the other night.
Hey babe, can I go out with my friends tonight?
Honestly, I've had a really, really tough week, and I just feel like I could really do with some company.
Oh. Can I just remind everyone that this is a country that was...
But before you say that, that was Hamza Yousaf, and I believe his wife, former First Minister of Scotland.
Do you believe he calls his wife babe?
But also, can we just remember...
I'm gobsmacked watching that. I am gobsmacked. What is he? What does he want to be? A social media influencer now?
But also, how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to that?
Okay.
That is called civilisational decline, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, listen, we're going to have to move on. Please go watch that home, because you don't want to go anywhere. We're going to get a pint here. Some of our comments on your saying you're getting vodka, which I would love at this point in time. It's the Saturday 5 Extra. We let our hair down. Anything can happen. Anything could go wrong. We will be having the biggest debates coming up in the next hour and another big interview. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for the Saturday 5 Extra.
I mean,
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Hope you've enjoyed all the sunshine that we've had around today, and it will be staying fairly fine and settled for most of us this evening and into the overnight period. We do, though, just have to watch out for some showers that are going to start drifting their way in from the southwest, so primarily for the Channel Islands, but increasingly spreading into parts of the West Country later on in the night as well. One or two of those could be on the heavy side. Dry for everywhere else, though, and it is going to be a mild night, certainly frost-free, but temperatures around 8, maybe 12 degrees Celsius as we kick off Sunday morning. We do have another area of rain just slowly pushing its way into the far northwest of Scotland as well. As we start off today, the bulk of it is still out towards the sea, but we'll eventually see some showers and outbreaks spreading into the Outer Hebrides, parts of the Highlands as well. Generally dry, though, for the rest of Scotland, Northern England and into Northern Ireland as well. For Northern Ireland, though, there will be some showers cropping up later on in the day, as this area of showers across the southwest will also continue its journey northward, so gradually spreading into southern areas of Wales into the afternoon as well. Certainly rain is needed after a very dry spring so far, but these showers are going to be quite short and sharp and will provide some torrential downpours in places with the potential for some thunderstorms, maybe even some lightning and hail, so some localised impacts are possible. Further towards the east, though, it's going to be a very warm day for the time of year, highs of 24 to 26 degrees Celsius. Our showers in the south are all driven by this area of low pressure that is very slowly continuing its journey in towards the UK, and that will still be lingering into Monday as well. So further outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland, and then we'll see further showers spreading in from the south across Wales. But we wouldn't take the graphics here too literally. There are still uncertainties on the exact spread of these showers as we head throughout Monday, but certainly potential for further downpours are possible. But things will settle up quite nicely as we head throughout the rest of next week, with sunshine and warm temperatures continuing.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness. That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5 Extra, the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. I'm Alex Armstrong, along with Will Kingston, Dr. Renee, Trey Lowe,